Hey good people, Batavia here. So we're in the backyard garden. This is the last time it's going to look this way, so I want to share it with you. See you in a few. Okie doke, so quick housekeeping items. Thank you to those who like, watch, comment, share, and subscribe to Be Better Garden. I appreciate it. If you haven't subscribed already, consider it. If you do, there's a notification bell you can hit so you're alerted each time I share more #GardenJoy. All right, so let's dig in. Okie doke, so I am really excited because today is October the 23rd and we have just a week or so for our average first frost, but it looks like it's going to push into November, and I could really use that time, so I'm really glad that that's what the weather is doing. I have a couple of things on my list of to-dos today. Forgive the lighting, you know, this time of year there's some spots that are much sunnier than others, but I want to do a couple of things today, and I just want to share what those are with you and give you an update on how some of the things are growing in the garden. And yeah, I'm hoping to share some of the harvest in the coming weeks. But for now, let's talk about how kind of our fall crops have really progressed. So in this wall, it's really struggled over here. This has been the most damage I've seen from the cabbage worm. You can see it's been eating up the mustards, and I'm picking them off daily. So I definitely know that that's where the damage is coming from. The Kohlrabi, which in this case, it's probably about the size that I could harvest it. I have one other in a container that's huge, and I hope it's still tasty. Last time we were together, we talked about these, and at that time it was mustards, but they were just eaten down to the stem, and I decided just to pull those and then plant some radishes, because I've had great luck so far this fall with radishes. I'll show you those in the raised bed that's on the other side. So these pak choi plants, vivid pak choi, a little bit of damage, but it's fine. You know, we're going to clean this up a little bit over the next couple of days. This will take a little bit of a chill. It won't take freezing temps, but kind of your frost, which again we aren't expecting until, you know, sometime in November. It should be fine. Oh, so I'm in zone 6. I'm in Chicago, Illinois, and again my normal average first frost date is October the 29th. So you won't be able to see it based on the sun or based on my camera skills, but here is one more fat cabbage looper, or cabbage worm I should say, that has been munching away. So I normally just keep those a bucket of water near and toss them in there. So yeah, I'll do that. But let's get back to it. So sorry. Over here we have turnips, which I was really rooting for. I got my timing right. I know for certain I'll cover these next year when I plant them in the fall. This is like the only healthy surviving mustard container. So there has been a little bit of damage. I think I ended up pulling one of the 3 that I had in here out. But that's okay because I have 2 beautiful red mustard plants. And so next up, that's arugula, which it's time to harvest. Get some of the tattered leaves out so you can get one more maybe small batch of arugula out of it. Next up, you know, there's not a whole lot to say about this. I mean, this is absolute damage for one of the kohlrabi plants, and all in all, based on everything else I have growing, it's fine. Just a lesson learned about kind of leaving them out and uncovered. And again, since I really don't like to keep up with a routine of sprays, you know, sometimes you're going to lose some things. So that's still edible. I'm just not, you know, there are no leaves, and it probably won't get that much bigger based on that. But check out the collard green bed. And really, because I promised a friend some collards, I'm absolutely going to harvest a bunch and do a video for these. It's been uncovered for a little bit, which is like my #1 rule I'm breaking, but they've just outgrown the actual fabric that I use, a tulle fabric like this. And so I decided not to try to invent something new, knowing that I'd be harvesting them, and instead, you know, take my chances, which so far it's paid off. So that is the collard green bed. So this is where the sun is. It's about 10 o'clock this morning. I'm kind of late this morning getting out here, but when it's getting light later and it is cooler, I'm just trying to get some warmth, because once that cold weather catches me, it really changes my day. My spinach is already bolted. All of that is spinach, but from what I've seen, it's still, these leaves are still edible. But check out my, let's see, these are the radishes I planted, get in there, September the 5th. So I don't know, what is that, like 7 weeks or something? So let's pull that up, because I'm actually going to be harvesting a bunch of these roots today. That looks really good. And a lot of these leaves are still really, really healthy. So I'm super excited about that. Let's sit that back down. I'll come back for you. Oh, I do want to show you the white icicle. They have just climbed out of the bed. I know, craziness. I was so excited because I have this thing about roots that make me really, really nervous, which maybe we'll talk about that separately. But to be able to see this growth in such a short period of time, it's good stuff. All right, so let's move along. So far, so really, really good. The cage that I built here, this was a revised design. This cage was originally here for my strawberries, which I still do have a couple of plants out here. We'll see what they do next spring and summer. But the kale has been completely unbothered by the cabbage worm. So it's a good shot of that. I'll maybe put in a picture of what it looked like just a few short weeks ago. So really, really excited. I'm going to open this up and we're going to take a look. See if I can do it with one hand. Alrighty, so these transplants, and remember I bought these, they have just taken off. So pleased. I got such a late start when it came to starting fall vegetables, like indoors, and I'm so glad I found these kale plants. And so I'm going to be eating off of these for a good while longer. Really happy with the results there. A couple other things to show you. So pulled up the Russian kale that was here. This is what I mean about the mustards. They have just had the hardest time. I'm hoping, again, once the cold weather really hits, not cold enough to freeze these plants, but cold enough to freeze what's eating them, you know, or at least scare them away. I'm hoping that there'll be a little bit more growth, but we'll see. This is the Kohlrabi. This thing. I think last time I showed you this, I intended to harvest it, and that was like 3 weeks ago, almost 4 weeks ago, and clearly I hadn't got to it. So this is definitely coming up. I'm going to pretend like this is a root crop and harvest it with the rest of my roots, and we'll see if that's still tasty. It's a good measure to see like how large they can get before they lose their taste and flavor. This is one of the other kale plants that is doing really well. It's interesting what the cabbage worm decides to eat it, or I guess what the cabbage moth decides to lay eggs on and what she doesn't. There are some here, like I see one right there, but I've been able to manage these a little bit better and get those out, and the plants continue to thrive. Look at that cool weather and what it's done to my herbs. Isn't that something? I always forget that a lot of these herbs really like the cooler temps versus the heat hot. So this is always a hard shot for me. But let's talk less about the peppers that we still have here. Last time we were together, I did say I was going to harvest a bunch of peppers, which I did. And so we still have a couple that have gotten a little bit larger on the plant. But this bed now, I'm focused on the nasturtiums. Again, a plant that likes cooler weather. Someone on Instagram shared a nasturtium pesto, which I'm super excited about trying. I'm looking all over the garden now, and in my mind I'm calculating how much nasturtium I have. So we're going to try that recipe and see how we like that. One other thing that we have as a chore today, so in addition to pulling up those root crops, over here in the corner, this is one of 2 plantings that I have for sweet potatoes. So this is the sweet potatoes that we're growing in the grow bag. these have been in the, let's see, the slips were planted like 135 days ago. So this is probably 2 weeks later than when I really should have been pulling them out. But we're going to get those out and see what happens. I'll share what that looks like with you all in another video. And then I think we just have what's left in the cage baby. Apologies, as I know there's a glare here, but I have radishes. So I had pulled potatoes out of these grow bags, and I thought since the soil was here, I think maybe I added a little bit of compost to it. I went ahead and sowed some radish seeds, since again the ones in that raised bed had produced so quickly. I, again, 2 weeks ago, remember, pulled all of the serrano peppers, and so I still have some small ones that are on the plant. Our temperature, although the first frost date is going to push out, we still are in like real fall temps, right? So 50-degree days, we're getting into the 40s in the night. So these plants are really kind of stalling out when it comes to tomatoes ripening. So one of, I guess the third thing for today is to, and now as I say it out loud, maybe not today, but it's to pull green tomatoes off of these plants and take them inside. And the intention is for them to ripen indoors, which I've had some pretty good luck without like losing a lot. Like, you know, instead of them rotting, they actually do ripen. But I do, depending on what I pull off, I have a couple of recipes for real green tomatoes that I'm gonna try. Some preserving recipes. This is the container of kale that goes all the way back to the spring. What I'll do is pull this out and show you a better shot of it. That was direct sowed way back when. So these smaller green tomatoes, these are really like a green relish is one of the things. Like instead of like a pickled relish, I'll do like a tomato relish. Green tomato relish is one of the things I'll do with these. Let's take a quick look. Oh well, again, it's always rude not to introduce you all to the volunteer, which I don't know still what this tomato is, but it is absolutely producing. I'm pulling tomatoes off at about like at the first sign of blush. So I try to keep the stem on it as well. And so I let them ripen indoors. I've already gotten, let's see, like 4.5 pounds off of this plant, which is super cool for something that you didn't plant and that just surprised you and volunteered. All right, so just a couple of other things. I still have some basil. This is probably from August that I planted this out. I purchased these transplants. Maybe we can climb in this way. Let's see. All right, inside of the cage baby. Let's see. I've forgotten about that one little cabbage plant. Yeah, I mean, it's growing. We'll see, I don't know. Now I'm kind of looking at it and thinking maybe it will provide you some cover and see. But these are some of the bell peppers from the spring. And they're just basically going to be harvested as baby bell peppers. And this is not the view I wanted to get. Although that's pretty cool. Through the cage baby. But let me see if I can get closer. I try not to step into these beds, but I end up doing it a couple of times a year as I prepare things. But this is the Boxcar Willie. Still really good size. So these are going to for sure be, I'm thinking, some really good fried green tomatoes. Look at that. That is super cool. So again, the temps are so cool where they're just not ripening on the vine, which is going to be fine. And then the smaller ones are the early girl because there are 2 plants folded in here. So, yeah. Okie doke. So thanks for spending some time with me. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them below, and I shall see you all on the next one.